Americans have been priced out of America, and some of them are leaving the country and moving to Europe. When you think of Europe, you're probably not thinking affordability, because there are definitely some countries that are very expensive. However, there are some European countries that are very interested in foreigners moving there, and Bloomberg actually did a report about how Americans who can't afford homes in America are moving to Europe. Countries like Portugal, Spain, and Italy are creating policies and incentives to get Americans to move to their countries. And since 2010, you can actually see a steady rise of Americans who move to Portugal. Portugal has basically a golden visa program. You do need to invest essentially a couple €100,000 in order to get that visa, but you don't actually have to be a millionaire to move to some of these countries. For example, Stephanie Sinclair used to live in Atlanta, Georgia with her kids, and she rented an apartment that was $3,000 a month. She said that the cost of living prevented her from saving enough to ever buy a house, so she looked to Europe. She ended up buying a home in Italy, and she basically moved her family over there. Italy is also working on a remote visa program because basically being an American, if you live anywhere in the world, you still have to pay taxes. So Italy and some other countries want to make that tax process a lot easier by offering different types of visas. Another example is Caitlin Kirk from Miami, Florida. Homeland Security officers saw a deal that Italy was doing with some of its remote communities where it was offering $1 for people to buy up houses. The catch was you had to renovate the home and live in the area. Caitlin ended up buying a 3-story house in Italy. Because the cost of her home was affordable, she basically says that she's going to be retiring at 50. And Jamie Dixon and her family moved to Portugal. She was able to do this after she got a remote job. And when she and her family established permanent residency in Portugal, they got health insurance, bank accounts, and the ability to lease property. These stories are not one-off exceptions. The number of Americans living in Portugal rose by 45% last year, and the number of Americans living in Spain also rose by 13%. Realtors have seen a 40% increase of Americans looking to move to Europe. That's up from last year. It's not just affordable housing that's drawing Americans to European countries. The dollar is performing a lot stronger than the euro currently. Besides the cost of living, some Americans said that they decided to move to Europe because it aligns more with their political values. So, would you consider moving to Europe?
Have you ever sit down and ask yourself why Americans move to other countries? Why do they choose other countries over America anymore? Why do they choose to live or spend the rest of their life in other countries? Thailand, Africa, Namibia, specifically Kenya, Nigeria. They choose to live in this country. Why? And do you ask yourself the economic effect Americans bring to those countries? People who are living there. Today, I uncover it. There is quiet migration happening across the world. More and more Americans are moving to other countries. Young and old are leaving US for a new beginning, a new era, you might say. From Mexico to Thailand, from Portugal to Kenya, they are searching for peace, affordability, and freedom. But as they arrive, something powerful happens. Economically, begin to shift. This isn't just a travel. This is a global transformation driven by the American dollar.
Did you know that a ton of American remote workers are moving to Mexico City and causing a housing crisis? If not, you've got to watch this video. Check out this article. Mexico City has experienced a sharp increase in short-term rentals in recent years, largely owing to a growing number of remote workers who are seeking affordable, vibrant cities with reliable internet connections. By the way, most of these are American, and they're not doing this legally. They're not getting visas. They're just moving there for short periods, overextending their stays, and causing issues with housing and increasing the prices of houses in these areas. The result of this change is that the government has implemented a 50% occupancy limit. The rule mandates that hosts can only rent out their properties for 50% of the time, effectively limiting the number of nights they can list their property on platforms like Airbnb. They also put a limit on rental days per year. Hosts are limited to 180 rental days per calendar year. The result of all of this is that locals are actually having to move to different areas of Mexico City because it's getting way too expensive. It's pretty sad. A lot of people don't agree with these laws because it's messing with a lot of business owners that own these buildings and want to rent it out, but it's also not fair for locals that it's getting so freaking expensive and they're literally having to leave. I find it super ironic because Americans constantly complain about immigration from Latin America, especially illegal immigration, and a lot of these people, this is exactly what they're doing. They're not getting visas, they're just going there for short and medium term, and they're driving up housing prices, and it's really unfair, and it's funny how the tables have turned, huh? Anyway, what do you guys think about this? Do you guys agree with the policies? What do you think about people moving to Mexico City and causing economic...
Let me begin by this. The rise of American expats. Every month, more Americans spark or pack up and leave. Retires, escaping high healthcare costs. Remote worker fleeing rent price that never stops rising. Young dreamers chasing simpler life. And this year, experts estimated millions of Americans are now living abroad, turning quiet towns into global communities. The dollar power effect. When Americans move abroad, they bring more than luggages. They bring spending power. The country like Mexico, Thailand, and Colombia, a single US dollar stretches 5 times further. That means Americans can rent luxury apartments, eat out daily, and live comfortably while locals struggle to keep up.
Americans are moving by the truckload into Mexico, and the locals, they're not happy. Here's why. They blame the increased amount of Americans with the rising cost of living, which is forcing the locals out of expat-dominated neighborhoods. Now, as someone from Los Angeles who saw the major influx of people coming over from the country of Mexico, here's my take on the matter. It's not fair to blame the people. Whether it's Americans going to Mexico or Mexicans coming to America, it's not the people that you can blame, but rather the government, because the people can only take advantage of the laws that already exist. What do you think?
The result, a price rise, neighborhood changes, and local families get pushed out of places they once called home. In many developing nations, this influx of Americans creates what economists call expat inflation. Landlord can even choose to raise the rent, coffees rise price, and suddenly a simple life becomes expensive for local who earn even weaker currencies. For example, if somebody from America moves to Madagascar or India, the economy they'll have money, but now the local will suffer in that economy.
Ni mimi tu nimeona Kenya imeanza kuwa overcrowded. Like, all these people are moving to Kenya. Yeah, mbona watu wanakuja Kenya? Alafu, the way it's so hard for Kenyans to go abroad and live there, or even buy land, buy anything. Yani basically, it's hard for us to go to those countries that people are coming here. Kwani Kenya imekuwa choo? Imekuwa choo? Watu tu wanakuja wakitoka venye wanataka. Kila mtu arudi kwa.
But there is another side. American experts also bring business, creativity, and investment. They open coffee shop, schools, techs, startups, and NGOs. They hire locals, share skills, and attract more global visitors. For example, in Kenya, digital nomads are boosting the economy in coastal towns like Diani and Watamu. In Mexico, American retire, keep small hospitals, a restaurant, and market alive. So while some suffer from inflation, others thrive from opportunities.
The way us Americans behave in Mexico is wild, nasty work, and it needs to stop. Listen, it's so crazy to me because you have so many people that'll be like, I can't believe Donald Trump is talking about making Canada the 51st state. But then some of those people will go to Mexico and they will just act crazy. They will act so entitled, man. The stuff that I've seen. Like, I remember this person was in a restaurant and they got so mad porque ellos no tienen una carta en inglés. They were like, oh my God, you don't have an English menu? I can't believe it, right? Like, and then there will be people, right, that'll be like, oh my gosh, I just went to this restaurant. I had the best meal of my life, but it should have been 50% off from what I paid in America. It should have been 40% off. I'm like, shouldn't you have paid double, right? Like, if it's the best meal you've ever had, but you're angry that you didn't squeeze every dollar, right? And then they'd be like, oh, you know you ain't got to tip them as much as you do in America. Like, it's like this level of entitlement, man. I can't even describe it, man. Let me know if you've seen this, right? Let me know your histories, your stories, all that good stuff. I've seen housekeepers get cursed out, man. I've seen people that can't even say, hablas inglés? Podemos hablar en inglés? Right? Like, and then the crazy thing is those same people, right? When somebody from Mexico will come to America, right, and be speaking with their friends in Spanish, they'll be like, only English in this country, only English. Now, I'm going to leave you with one thing, right? Si hablas dos idiomas, eres bilingüe. Pero si solo hablas uno, eres americano.
But it's not just money, it is culture. As Americans settle abroad, they influence local customs, politics, and even faith. Some countries embrace the mix, others resist it. Tension rises when the wealth divides communities, yet friendship also form. Culture blends and new perspectives grow. You know, when somebody comes in a place when there's people who are maybe living a affordable life, they can easily connect, but the poor are divided, are now staying away from those places. So we're claiming that they bring they divide the communities. Also, they bring friendship. But the question isn't whether Americans should move abroad, it's how the world can adapt to this new global migration without losing its soul. From real estate booms in Costa Rica to price surges in Lisbon to local protests in Thailand, the American immigration is reshaping global economies in ways we've never seen before. Every location, every dollar spent abroad changes the balance of life in another country.
You ever wonder what happens when wealthy Americans go buy properties in Mexico? I'll tell you. They sue their neighbors. A Mexican restaurant that's been a staple in Puerto Vallarta for 35 years. And I know what you're wondering. What did the neighbor do? This is Gabby's Mexican Restaurant and Bar, a restaurant that has been a favorite in the community since 1989. And the new owner of the home purchased next to the restaurant, a wealthy American, is suing, trying to shut down Gabby's restaurant because she doesn't like the loud Mexican mariachi that plays every night. She filed a petition to shut down the restaurant, and in the meantime, the owner, she had to shut down the restaurant while this is in litigation. 2 months shut down. Employees did not get paid. Mariachis could not make any money. The restaurant could not make any money because this entitled wealthy American decided they didn't like the ambient, they didn't like the mariachi music, and they want this place shut down. So what the owner did was she held a community event that you see here where hundreds, if not thousands, of people came to sign a petition to bring to the court to support the restaurant so that it not be shut down and it continues serving the community. While the community event goes on, she comes out and starts recording them as if they're committing a crime, as if she needs evidence to bring to the judge how loud these Mexicans can get. But that's not all. You come into the neighborhood and instead of embracing the local culture and learning about the customs, you want to shut everything down. You want to take your country, America, into Mexico because you want peace and quiet. You're not happy with your neighbor who happens to be a very well-established restaurant and a staple in the community. And you're upset because all these Mexicans come every night and dance to the music of beautiful mariachi music. If this is not privilege mentality, I don't know what is. You think you can go and move to another country and demand that they abide by your customs. That instead of you moving to another country and embracing their culture, you're going to demand that they change for you. So let me get this straight. You want the beauty of the weather. You want to live near the beach. You want to have these beautiful properties that you would never in your wildest dream would able to afford here in the US. But you want all of that, and on top of that, you want to change the local culture as well. I wonder what they call that. Let me know in the comments.
The world once looked to Americas for opportunities. Now America is looking for the world maybe to stay there. Some people are even applying for green card to go and live in America. But now Americans are leaving America for Africa, America for Colombia, America for Thailand, America for every other part of the world. So what are you going to do in the country whereby people are living for their life in other world? Wherever they go, Americans bring more than money. They bring influence, change, and consequences. It is a new chapter in human movement, where borders blur and the economy follows the traveler. This is Global Tales. Subscribe, share, leave a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think about American moving to other part of the world. How is it affecting other world? How is it affecting other countries when they go and move there, because they go there and rent a luxury house? They can live, they can even pay 3 times the local people can pay in that place. They can eat out daily, but their money cannot finish. Till next time, I'm in peace. Be with you. I love you.